to the new loss which has happened in Cape Town overnight. Hundreds of shacks in the Joe Slovo informal settlement there razed to the ground. It's thought around 1,200 people have now been left homeless after their homes went up in flames on Saturday night. Newzroom Afrika's Athi in Mtongana is there. She joins us for more on this story now. Athi, good afternoon to you once again. What's the situation now as people try and rebuild?
Well, Stephen, as you can imagine, it's been a very busy morning for the residents of the Joe Slovo informal settlement here in Langa, who've been trying to pick up the pieces following that devastating fire that wiped about 300 shacks to the ground. They watched their homes last night burn to the ground as the city of Cape Town's rescue and fire services moved in to try and put out the fire, and they managed to contain it, Stephen, because this particular informal settlement is quite huge, and so they were able to at least save the surrounding shacks, which inevitably did not get affected with the arrival of the rescue and fire services. But many residents, of course, complaining that many of the other shacks could have been saved if the fire services arrived promptly on time, but they were able to salvage those that are surrounding this particular area. Now, what residents have been doing all morning, as I said, is picking up the pieces, collecting what they can. But what we've noticed is that they are demarcating spaces where their shacks were to ensure that there's no invasion. So you might know that in the Western Cape, human settlements is a huge issue. A lot of people have migrated into this particular province from other provinces for economic development, many of them working here, finding means to be able to put food on the table. And so there's a huge demand for pieces of land to live in. And so what we're seeing residents do, which I'm going to ask my colleague Thabo Mokoena do, is show you that residents have been demarcating spaces where their shacks originally were to ensure that they don't get taken by other residents who might seek an opportunity to come here and benefit from the efforts of the city of Cape Town and various other NGOs that will come in and provide relief for these residents. Now, I want to bring in Zahid Badroodien. He's from the city of Cape Town, and I want him to talk about what they concluded following that JOC meeting. And I see that you've been walking around here speaking to some of the community leaders. What have you assessed so far?
Yes, so this morning our Joint Operations Centre had a meeting with all the necessary line departments, which included informal settlements, water and sanitation, solid waste, etc., to bring together everyone who is needed to make sure that we can act on what we're seeing behind us. So essentially what we've estimated at this moment is that the devastation that we see at this location impacts about 600 square meters. We're estimating about 400 structures at this moment to have been impacted by the fire last night. At the same time, we're estimating as well about 1,500 people affected by those structures, by the fire. Thankfully, no one has passed away, no one is missing, everyone is accounted for. We've already activated our disaster risk management officials who are on site at the moment, together with the Gift of the Givers, together with SASA as well, who are doing the necessary registration to understand exactly how many people have been affected. At the moment, all we have is estimations. They will become clearer through the day.
Talking about SASA, earlier on I spoke to Mackenzie, and he was passing the buck from the city of Cape Town to say you're not able to provide the material that residents need immediately right now, and he said that SASA is mandated. Can you perhaps tell us how long that process will take? Because as you can see, some of the residents behind me have started rebuilding, and that's essentially what they need, material.
Yeah, 100%. I maybe want to first touch on the fire truck issue that you mentioned in the beginning. Our teams were on site as quickly as possible. We have a number of fire stations in the area. What is difficult, though, about this location is that you only have two entrances into this particular space with access to the end to my right. Bringing those fire trucks into the space is difficult, next to impossible, because the roads are not wide enough to accommodate that. But our teams were here. They put the fires out between 8 o'clock and 12 o'clock. By 12, the fire had already been extinguished. So I'm very pleased with the actions of our fire services. In terms of the structures, very clearly, and the city has been clear on this for a number of months, if not years already, that we do not provide starter kits anymore. It's something that we did do previously in these large instances, but I myself have participated in a number of engagements with SASSA, with the MEC for Social Development in the province, also with the National Minister of Social Development herself, where this matter had been engaged. What we do know is that on top of the soft humanitarian relief that is offered by SASSA, by Gift of the Givers and other NGOs, there is a responsibility by different sphere in this instance, and as per agreement by SASSA, to make sure that those starter kits are available in these instances where it is declared a disaster.
From that JOC meeting that you had, are there any time frames for providing what the city can bring to the table together with SASSA? Are there any time frames?
Absolutely. So in this moment, we're busy assessing the true number of people and structures affected. The humanitarian relief in terms of food and toiletries are on their way. They're imminent, being brought in by SASSA and Gift of the Givers. Tomorrow, after the assessments have been done here, solid waste will be on site to remove all of the debris, to also flatten out some of the space. Water and sanitation is already in the process of assessing where the standpipes will go, and will also repair the burnt out toilets here in this location. So we're moving very actively. What we do need to get to the bottom of is where the materials will come from, but that's something I'll take up after this.
Zahid, we know that Cape Town is prone to fires, and particularly shack fires. What I want to know from you is, what is the city of Cape Town doing to educate residents to avoid situations like this?
So through safety and security, there's an extensive program where a team visits various informal settlements to support with the necessary education in terms of potential paraffin fire sources, educating the communities on how to prevent that, educating communities on how to deal with fires should they arise with the necessary means, sand, etc. We also have the fire prevention paints that we roll out across a number of communities. And so together with all of those being driven by disaster risk management, we try and prevent fires. But as you know, it's very difficult in these instances in very closely knit communities where the risk of fires catching and spreading is so high. So essentially, when we have these kinds of opportunities to do reblocking and to make sure that there's space to bring services and infrastructure in, we use it. And so we've got human settlements here who are going to help us try and bring some of that into this community.
Quickly, just wrapping up, you're talking about human settlement. Interestingly, I spoke to the residents. They spoke about the issue of how if they were given houses as per the people waiting on the housing list, they would have avoided the situation. What do you have to say to those sentiments? Because really, that's what people are saying. They're saying, had we been given houses as people who've been on the housing list, we would have avoided the situation.
I understand totally the frustration and the feeling and the desperation that residents have at the moment. The reality is that there's 300,000 people on the waiting list, and the houses are being allocated to people who applied in 1994, 1993 at the moment. So yes, there may have been people here on the waiting list at that stage, but the vast majority, if you look, and I think you'll agree with me, fairly young bunch, and so probably unlikely that they'd qualify at this moment for houses, considering where we are at in terms of the allocation.
Zahid Badroodien, thank you so much for your time. I want my colleague then, Thabo, if you can show Stephen that there are some residents who've actually started rebuilding their homes. They've taken it upon themselves, because we do know that government operates at a snail pace. And so they have gone out to actually remove the debris themselves and remove the burnt material. They bought material, as expensive as it is for many people living in communities like this who are unemployed. They were able to do that, and they are now rebuilding their home, and they will at least have a roof over their head this evening. But the city of Cape Town, of course, says they will be working with various stakeholders to find alternative accommodation for some of these residents, because as you know, many of them are here in the Western Cape without family members. Unlike others who are at least able to seek refuge at relatives, others are stranded. They don't have anywhere else to go. And so the efforts of the city of Cape Town and various other stakeholders, including NGOs, will then be able to come up with a solution in as far as alternative accommodation is concerned.
Athi and Mtongana, thank you very much indeed for that very comprehensive update on the situation there.